What's happening, everybody? I'm Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. How are you? You know what? This one's going to be hard to get through, so I'm going to give everybody a warning. This is a really, really rugged story. This is one of the ugliest stories I've ever researched in my life, and honestly, I didn't even really want to take a shot at this, but so many of you have reached out to me and said that you would like me to take a look at this, and you know something. The reasons that I don't want to talk about this are the reasons that things like this disappear, and they're the reasons that the Epstein case and things like that. This is one of those cases that makes you want to look away. It does. I promise you. This is one of those cases that makes you want to look away. This is one of those cases that makes you want to pretend that this kind of crap doesn't happen and that this is a one-off, right? This could never happen again. This couldn't. In fact, it's hard to believe that it happened once, right? This is disturbing as hell. It really is. But unfortunately, the world that we live in right now, if we're not stepping up to the plate and looking at things like this and calling this crap out, then in 10 or 15 years, it'll be my kid or it'll be somebody else on a YouTube channel talking about how this is probably our best shot to get rid of these dirtbags. This is the year of we're human tea, right? Can't even say it. This is the year when the human tea and all of that starts to get unraveled. This is one of the most disturbing cases ever. One of the other reasons that I didn't want to cover this case, if I'm just being honest, is because there are going to be people that want to make this thing political because it's just kind of how people are, right? Every side kind of wants to take a victory lap. And these two men, I don't care their sexual preference. I don't care that they're into the whole pride thing. Means absolutely nothing. The only reason that that's part of the story is a man and a woman could not do to these boys what two men did, right? It's as foul a story as you're ever going to come across. These two men, William and Zachary Zulak. William worked for the government. Had a government job. It's got to make you feel good. He's 34. 36-year-old Zachary was a banker. These guys made a crap load of money. They lived in a very affluent neighborhood outside of Atlanta. Why is it that these scumbags always seem to have to find their way to some kind of a place so that it mocks us and throws in our face the fact that what they're doing honestly flies in the face of everything good on planet Earth, right? For real. But they feel the need for whatever reason to get involved in the fight against exactly what they're doing. This is a recurring theme. We're seeing this over and over again. You're not sure you've heard this story? Well, buckle up, because this is going to be one of the most disturbing things you've ever heard. Do me a favor. Put a 2 in the chat if you've heard this story, and give me a 3 if you have not. Nat B from Canada, good to see you. Yeah, this is not this story really. Most of the traction from this story happened. The first time the story really started to get a lot of traction was in August, when one of these two bozos was sentenced to life in prison, or 100 years is what they got. The crimes against these guys. So let's start at the beginning. Here's what happened in July of 2022. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children got a tip. And what it came down to is they located somebody that was downloading homemade, you know what, CP, right? The most foul stuff on planet Earth. Homemade CP had been downloaded. And it was not downloaded by one of these cats. It was downloaded by a guy named Hunter Hawks, Hunter Lawless. See if we can get a picture here of this prime piece of scumbag right here. This is Mr. Lawless, right? Thank you so much, Christy Hughes. Really appreciate you. Your never-ending support. I really, really appreciate it. So this guy right here is how they ended up busting William and Zachary Zulak. This guy, Hunter Lawless, when they found him and they said, hey, you know what? These images were downloaded. He folded like a card table, and he instantly started to talk. And he said that he got these images from a gentleman by the name of Zachary Zulak. He also said that the boys in the images who were being R-worded and being violated by their fathers, and I am putting up quotation marks with my fingers on this one because these guys weren't fathers. They weren't anything. But they also offered, Zachary also offered Hunter Lawless the opportunity to sleep with his son if he wanted to. It's difficult to wrap your brain around this. It really is. This investigation got Hunter cooperated. So because of his cooperation, he got 20 years. It also caused them to find some other people like Luis Vicaro Sanchez, another upstanding member of society here. This gentleman received a 60-year sentence. You see the look of shame on these cats' eyes? What you're looking at is the realization that the rest of their life is going to be hell. These guys know what happens to people like them in prison, right? What you're looking at, honestly, is people whose lives just ended. Here's the disturbing part of this case, as if all of it isn't the disturbing part of this case. These men, by all accounts, adopted these boys for the purpose of doing this. There are emails and text messages where they said to friends of theirs, I'm going to go R-word my son. Stand by. Every room in the house was wired for sound like a Diddy complex. And they had recorded everything that they had done. Somewhere to the tune of 7 terabytes just of their kids. 7 terabytes. That's 3 million images or 3,000 hours of their kids being abused. They were not just doing this. They're going to go to federal prison, Mother Bird. They're going to go to federal prison. And the reason that they're going to go to federal prison is because they were producing this stuff, right? And they were disseminating it. And once you start to make this stuff and produce these kind of images, you're going to go to the federal system. They're going to end up at the United States Penitentiary in Coleman, the United States Penitentiary in Tucson, or the United States Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. It's going to end up being one of those 3 places that these people are going to end up. Why are they still breathing? Well, Whoopi, they just haven't had a chance to get among general population yet. And it's not going to be GP, but it's going to be, they're going to be on a special needs yard, right? And a special needs yard means that they're going to be on there with gang dropouts. They're going to be on there with guys that were stone cold killers throughout their entire prison career. And my gut says they're not going to want to walk a yard with these guys. These guys are in some trouble. I would be really surprised if Hunter doesn't end up getting crushed. And the 2 white guys, there's no place to hide them. There's no place to hide them. They are white boys. I can speak very solidly to how they're going to be treated. Right? They're going into the federal system, and I promise you, no matter where they put them, these guys' crimes are so egregious. I hate to go down the list of what they were actually charged with, but I think it's kind of important. Again, not looking away sucks. Prison justice, Bayou Babe. Listen, the last time we saw anything this foul was the case that I covered on here. And it was a guy or was a woman that had sold her children, her daughter, to drug dealers. And the daughter contracted HIV through one of these contacts. I believe she was 6. The guy that had done that got 120 years, right? He was going to do the rest of his life in prison. And it didn't take the boys but about a couple of weeks to get a beat on who this dude was and then remove him from planet Earth. He didn't get beat up. He got murdered. He got murked. Right. And I would say that there's a really good chance that these guys could end up with the same fate. There's no chance, I promise you, that no matter what yard they drop these guys on, no one's going to be cool with having them around. These are guys that the only way that they could protect these dudes is if they drop them in ADX and give them a cell of their own. Right. Now, if you're one of these guys, I mean, these guys aren't hard, but they would have to start stabbing people instantly. They would have to start elevating their yard points to the point where they could get sent to the ADX. It's going to be a real tough climb for these fools, particularly William and Zachary Zulak, right? Here's what I find disturbing, and here's where I think we have to. This is why we can't look away. This is why, no matter how disgusting the story is, we got to look at this and we got to talk about this, right? They sent a text message that was used in the building of this case. These guys pled guilty, right? They took deals for 100 years because they were going to get, broken off. There's no chance you win. There's so much evidence. There was pointless for them to try to do anything other than plead guilty. But part of the evidence package was all of the friends of theirs that they communicated with to say things like, I'm going to go R-word my son, stand by. Whoever received that text needs to go to prison. Am I wrong? Put a 2 in the chat if you think anybody that these people knew who got a text like that need to be prosecuted. If you're aware of something like this going on and happening to a child and you don't take action to make that stop, then you should be in prison. I'm sorry. And I know that people say stuff like, you can't mandate this kind of stuff. This is morality, and you can't mandate morality. And there's actually been cases of this, right? I think the one that they always study in law school is the Kitty Genovese case, right? Where a person was attacked outside and people could see and everybody just closed their blinds. Nobody wanted to get involved. Can you force someone to get involved? I think if kids are involved in the thing and somebody knows about a child being harmed, right? And they do nothing about it, they're complicit. They're absolutely complicit. And we know this happened. Right? We know it. You go read the reports, go read the articles, text messages to their friends. Where are their friends? Drag their asses into court. Right? They need to be prosecuted. You know what? It's awful. And I know nobody wants to hear this. Listen to me. Think about this from my standpoint. If you think this is going to get the clicks, something else is going to, you're crazy. Nobody wants to hear this. But this is the year where we have to talk about things that no one wants to talk about. This has to be the year because I want to tell you something. This ain't a friggin' one-off. I promise you it's not. I have other questions. These kind of things, the reason we have to talk about this is this. We know, right? We already gave up a lot of our rights in this country when that Patriot Act thing went smoking through, right? We did. We gave up a bunch. And if that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. They record every phone call. They record every email. They record every text message. How are these freaks getting this stuff to one another without getting caught? You're going to tell me we can't write a program that picks this stuff off? Well, that gives up rights. I know. You're not supposed to give up any rights for any reason. Man, come look through my crap. If I know people don't want to hear that. But if we got this kind of technology, then there's got to be a way to stop this stuff for real. And here's another thing that should be really friggin' obvious. If somebody manufactures this stuff, life in prison, or the death penalty. If these people realize that they're never going to get out, how much money is that worth? Because I promise you, whether you realize it or not, every inmate, every convict, every criminal has that moment of, I wonder how much time what I'm doing is going to bring me. I knew if I got caught for robbing banks, what I was looking at, right? I knew I wasn't going to get life in prison. I knew if I didn't use one of these, I was looking at about 5 years on the first one. If these people knew that the first time anything got caught on their hard drive and they could be proved without any doubt, they should just get life in prison. Start picking them off like this and giving them life. And you know what? FPC, those yards, protective custody yards, and all of that stuff for these people, sprinkle them throughout the system. Right? For real. Drop them into GP. Hey, Russ, good to see you, man. People, not my place, right? But tomorrow night, Russ is going to probably make an announcement on the show that we do, the Night Yard program. If you've been with the boat for a long time, you know that Russ has had a case going with the Boy Scouts. It's coming to an end, and he's going to tell everybody about that tomorrow night. But this is the year of justice, and we're coming out in January, and one of our own is getting some. So it's a pretty beautiful thing. Honestly, these kids need justice. They're going to need counseling for the rest of their time on planet Earth. I cannot begin to tell you how horrified and terrified I am for kids. 10 and 12 years old right now, these boys are. Names obviously being withheld for their own privacy. SJ, good to see you. But the justice for these kids, these guys going away forever is fantastic, right? That's great. But we got to do a crap load better when we start handing kids off to people. If these guys had friends that were doing this kind of correspondence back and forth with each other, and they had terabytes of CP, how the hell did they pass a background check to be able to adopt? We're that bad at this. If that's the truth, that's got to make you sick. It really does. It's got to make you sick. But this is the year of justice and the year of accountability. I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that, Kathy. It's going to require all of us to step a little outside of comfort zones. It's going to require that some of us, here's the crazy thing. I will do a show on Diddy. And in the comments section, there will be one after another. People saying, hey, man, what about the kids? You going to talk about the kids? I'll come on here and talk about the kids, and we'll get 250 people in the chat instead of 750. Sounds good, right? But this is hard to look at. No one wants to hear this. These lowlives were charged with William. This is the guy that worked for the United States of mother-loving America. He had 6 charges of aggravated sodomy. 6 counts of aggravated M-word against a minor. 2 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor. They gave him 100 years. His scumbag partner, Zach, 2 counts of aggravated sodomy, 3 counts of aggravated M-word on a minor, 2 counts of pandering somebody under the age of 12. Pandering is another word for pimping, right? It's selling. These guys got 100 years. They should get the death penalty. If there's anything on this planet that calls for the death penalty, it is this. These guys went out under the guise of trying to save 2 boys who needed a good home and created a house of horrors that they videotaped for their pleasure and their sick perversion. How is it that we're going to let these people breathe oxygen? And you know what sucks? For real, you know what sucks? Someone's going to crush this guy's head with a lock, right? Or someone's going to bury a shank in this guy's neck. If the government took care of these people, the inmates wouldn't have to. And sometimes those inmates that do that end up spending the rest of their life in prison because they took care of trash that should have been taken care of by the court system. And this may not make sense to everybody, but if you're doing time for robbery, or you're doing time for dealing drugs, or you're doing time for robbing a bank or doing whatever, and they tell you that they want to drop a guy into your cell who adopted kids to do this to him, every other guy in that unit is going to expect you to kill this person when the door's shut at night. If you don't, every other person in that unit is going to come after you. You may not believe this, but anybody that's done time will back me up on this. Russ is in the house. He'll tell you. They call a hit on that dude. They say, look, you're going to go take this dude out. When you hear us say that you're next in line to put work in, that's what putting work in is, right? They find out that there's a low life like this on the yard, and they hand you a piece, right? And they send a couple of guys with you as backup. And you go in there and start sticking them. And you stick them as many times as you can in about 10 or 15 seconds, and then you leave. But as jacked up as that is, that's the culture. Shouldn't have to be. They should just remove these people from planet Earth. I'm sorry, man. If that bums you out, you can go ahead and send me a mean email. But I don't understand talk to shrinks. They're going to tell you that they can't be cured. There's no way to stop this, right? Then why don't we do something a little bit more permanent about it? I know there are people that really get all bent out of shape about that. It's a disease. It's just like your drug addiction. Well, I don't see it that way. You see the drug addiction stuff? I got 10 years sober, right? Or I will in June. Everybody I know has been able to set that crap down and walk away from it. It's hard, right? The statistics are not in our favor. But even by their numbers, 20% live a perfect life. They never pick up their substance again. And a lot of those don't even look back. A lot of them don't even think about their substance ever again. Can't be compared. I'm tired of that frigging comparison. Right? I'm sorry, just am. If you've got someone that you know who is attempting the assassination of a soul, what do you think the uphill battle for this 10 and 12-year-old boy is going to be like? How much therapy and how much counseling, right? For the hope of a normal life. God bless these kids, man. And I understand. No, it's not, actually. It's not too dark at all. I kind of dig it, man. Desert Ghost says, I got 13 years sober. I never think of it. How good is that, man? Put a 3 in the chat. Honestly, I can't say that for me. I will occasionally still think about my drug of choice, which is heroin. Still happens to me. But it happens a couple of times a year, right? I've talked about my triggers before. It snowed yesterday, big time. That first snowfall of the year is always hard for me. It was a hell of a lot easier with my fiance around. Yesterday, we had a really, really great day. We just sort of farted around. It was snowing way too hard to kind of do anything around here anyway. It really was. So we started watching some true crime stuff together. It was so much fun. It really was. Hey, Ree, good to see you. And I know I didn't shout out everybody in the chat today. I'm trying to balance. I don't feel like, honestly, I felt really weird being happy at the beginning of this show. I dig the audience. I really do. This is the greatest crew. But when I start shouting out, I'm singing, I'm joking, I'm laughing. This is disturbing, man. This is so friggin' disturbing. It really is. And again, it's one of those things that you feel like you need to warn people about before you start talking about it, right? But this kind of abuse, these people filmed this, right, and then disseminated it. Let me tell you another thing that we have going on in this country right now that is one of the most frightening things. While deep diving this, I came across some stuff that you guys know what OnlyFans are. We joke about OnlyFans all the time, right? Quibs jokes about it. I joke about it. We talk about it. Everybody does. In the last month, 49 accounts on OnlyFans have determined to be CP, and the people are being prosecuted. I ain't exactly the dark web. You know what I'm saying? This ain't exactly the dark web. This is the most promoted funk out there that you're going to get anywhere. 49 accounts. This is in our face, folks. This is in our face. And they're trying to normalize this. Do you understand? They're trying to normalize this. This isn't normal. There's nothing about this that's normal. This is abnormal like a big dog. And if we look away, right? If we look away, they're going to be selling thongs, right, for 4-year-olds at every single store you shop in by next Christmas. Because this is, I'm dead serious. This is the direction we're going in. Somebody I know sent me a post today of a mutual friend, and this person has kids, and the email just said to me, "How old is this girl? Give me a guess." And I said 22, right? I'm not good at this. Somewhere between 18 and 22, something like that. He said 13. Now, a lot of that had to do with how this person had been dressed. Some of it also had to do with how this person had been posed. But we live in a world now, right, where you don't have to pose kids that age because they've been watching people pose like that on every single one of the platforms that they watch every day for 6 hours at a whack. They know exactly what to do, right? And they're singing lyrics to songs that literally, right, when I was a kid in high school, the stuff that my parents were freaking out that we were playing, can you imagine if they had been playing some of the Nicki Minaj stuff back then? My mother would have eliminated music from the United States of America. Think I'm playing? Seriously, our parents would have revolted. They would have taken up arms. But you see, you keep doing this in itty bitty little increments, right? Until you get to a point where they start talking about minor attracted people, right? Chomos, freaks, minor attracted people. Keep adding syllables, right? Keep making that sound like it's something that, right? It's no big deal. They're just attracted to minors. They're freaks, right? You know what? You know what? This was a big one. Yeah, that, you know what, the other one that really, and this was crazy because, so when I was a youngster, I think I was probably 13, and my mother was going shopping. We lived in the sticks growing up, right? So if you wanted to buy anything, it's kind of like where I live now. If you want to buy anything, you're about 30 minutes from any place where there are legit stores where you could buy things like cassette tapes or albums or things like that. And I wanted the Jay Giles band, right? They had it was Freeze Frame was the album. This is the album that had My Angel is the Centerfold on it. Had an awful lot of really great hits, but it also had a hit called Piss on the Wall. And my mother bought this album because I said to her, I gave her the money, I saved up for it. I said, can you pick this up for me when you're over, right, in New Hampshire? She had to drive to a different state. I said, while you're there, can you pick this up? She said, absolutely. And then on the way home, like she pulled the thing out and started reading the names of the songs. And when she got home, man, she said to me, I ever hear the last song on this album, I hear that song, she's like, this thing disappears. It was a different time, man. It really was. It was a different time. Yeah, I'm not surprised. If you start looking at what they're marketing to kids now, it was awful. Leonard Skinner, you can't go wrong with Leonard Skinner. Sorry if you've covered this already, Tommy, but did you see that the guy who shot up that pizza place was shot dead at a traffic stop? I did not see that. No. Pearl, if you want to send me the link to that, I had not heard that. Hey, Jimmy Pickles, good to see you. I'm not going to make any friends with this, right? But if you ask me a question, I suppose I could avoid them and just not answer them. But I think this is an important question. I really do. A long time ago, I knew a girl that posed in Playboy. Her, I guess I kind of dated her. We hung out for a period of time. Her younger sister was doing pageants. And I remember them talking about capping her teeth, right? And how young was too young for implants. Now, she wasn't doing the John Benet stuff, but she was doing 12, 13, and 14. And they were literally talking about getting her chest augmented. And I don't get it. I really don't. But here's my stance. If you are doing anything to a child to try to make that child look like they are 20 years older than they are, get your shit together. Does not make any sense. Your kid has got all kinds of time, right, to look like a woman, right? And then she's going to spend the rest of her life wishing that she looked younger. Don't do what you can to make your 5-year-old look like she's 30. That's my humble opinion, and you can dislike me for it, man. I agree. I think you do have to start looking at parents. And I know that there are people, I'm sure, there are going to be people that are going to send me emails that say, that it teaches the child poise, and I did it, and, my sister did it, and we turned out perfect. I absolutely believe that those things probably happen too, right? Perfect example. I shot smack every day for decades. And look at me, I'm here. Does that make that stuff safe? No one else is. Everybody else I know is dead, right? Except I have one friend left that didn't OD. Everybody else is dead. That does not mean that the substance is safe because I managed to get through it, right? Here's the thing. This is logical, isn't it? Isn't this the first thought? Honestly, you think to yourself, why don't you just lop the crap off, right? This has been done chemically in the past. There have been states that at times would chemically castrate people. And you know what the research on this tends to be? They don't stop hurting people. But now that they can't do what they used to do, they become violent. That has been it's one of the reasons that it isn't done these days anymore, right? Because it doesn't take away the desire. It takes away the ability to follow through, and that probably makes people far more dangerous. I think if we let kids be kids, right, then maybe people won't look at them as SMEX objects, right? If we continue to make 17-year-olds look like they're 25 and 16-year-olds look like they're 21 and 15-year-olds look like they're 19, then I don't think it's a shocker when culture begins to treat girls that age as if they're older, right? Blue Ivy on the red carpet at that opening for the latest Lion King movie from Disney. That was a disturbing display, in my opinion, right? She's a little girl. She just turned 13. But allegedly, 31 minutes, 22 seconds in before I did the first allegedly. Allegedly, her dad has looked at women, young women, in an inappropriate manner for a very long time, right? If you were comfortable with Foxy Brown when she was, around that age, it shouldn't be a shocker that he's fine with his daughter being dressed up like that. And here's, it's a fine line. I'm not trying to sit here and say bad things about a preteen girl. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think her parents suck, right? I don't think she dressed herself. Do you think she picked that outfit? Do you think she picks anything in her life? My God, can you imagine losing the lottery? Right? You want to talk about losing the life lottery. This girl's life is written, right? Maybe she would have made a damn good school teacher. For real. Maybe she'd have made an excellent lawyer. But what do you think she's going to be? Huh? Exploited. That's what she's going to be. She's going to be exploited. They're out there hammering down that trademark stuff, aren't they? Well, they have to. You got to get that straight and you got to get that tight so that you can make sure no one's making any money on your kid's name on the side, right? So when I was deep diving and I came across this stuff from about the OnlyFans, 49 accounts, right, in a month that were producing CP live. People are watching it live. You know what else I came across? There's a new brand of freak out there that take and do this stuff digitally, right? So they can take somebody like a Blue Ivy and use their face to make a computer-generated form of CP. Guess what? It's still violating that child, even if it's not that child's body. It's just as foul. It's just as disgusting, right? And it should be prosecuted the same way. What happens when you live in a world, right, that the framers of the Constitution didn't have any idea that this sick piece of crap was going to be flying around? We need to probably, at least in this country, we probably need to get together and sit down and say, there's probably needs to be some constitutional protections of kids. Now that we live in a world that somebody can get into your kid's bedroom without having to actually enter the house, maybe we need a whole new batch of protections, right? Maybe we need a whole new batch of protections. And in my humble opinion, right, when we lock these people up, we're trying to protect them from society. We're also trying to send a message to every other sick son of a bitch that is trying to do the same thing. And if that message is, you're going to get a decade, right? And they think to themselves, well, it's profitable as hell, right? I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from my bedroom. I'll risk it for 10. If it costs them their life. Now, if you don't have the stomach to have these people put into a wood chipper like JD DeLay does or would like to, okay, then take their life so that they can never, ever walk out among children again. Make it so that these people can never, ever do this again. Lock them up, throw away the key. I'm a convict, did time. I'm saying lock them up and throw away the key. Build more prisons for these people, right? Start kicking out guys with drug habits and start locking up people with these particular afflictions. right? 350,000. How depressing is this? And we're talking about two of them. These are two kids whose fates we know about. How many horrific stories do we not know in the last 365 days with 350,000 kids that were missing that we don't know where they are? We can't account for them. We know they came across with this cool little wristband thing, right? That'll tell the scumbags on our side of the border how long these people have to be sex slaves before their freedom is earned. Yeah. I think it makes everybody sick to their stomach, right? I think it makes everybody sick to their stomach. You know what else makes me sick to my stomach? We had a hearing on this, right? We talked about this stuff. This is the stuff I follow, right? This is the lifeboat, right? Not trying to bum anybody out politically. Yeah. Somebody left me a big comment yesterday about, are you really stupid enough to believe that this has anything to do with the southern border? Listen, you asshat. Where do you think the dope's coming from? Do I think it has anything to do with the southern border? If you put up an invisible wall that did not allow anything to come across that southern border, there wouldn't be fent on our streets. You can church this up into and talk to me about the economic conditions in South America, but it's still coming back to that border. I promise you. Take this from a criminal that used to make a lot of money going across that border. And the great thing is this: I didn't take a political side in this. Honestly, I'm not. I don't care. That's the problem. The problem was with political sides because you can't give the other team a win, even if that win maybe saved 350,000 kids. Neither side wants to give anybody a win. And if we're talking about, if politics come into the issue of this, well, then everybody's evil as hell. This is about 350,000 kids that are missing, man. And whether you what politics you believe in or not, I mean, you want to let them all in? Fantastic. Let them all in. But you better keep track of every single one of them or they're on your hands. This isn't rocket science. It really isn't, man. Sorry. But this is a handful, right? This is two kids. This year, we're going to talk about a lot of really uncomfortable stories. I will apologize in advance for all of the stories that we don't want to hear, for all of the stuff that we have to look at that we don't want to look at, right? Can you imagine? Russ, take care, my man. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm happy for you, man. I really am. A little bit of justice. A little bit of justice. Yeah, you're right. If you see something, say something. Right? We do work in a place, right? We live in a world right now where I've never been in a place like we're at right now. I don't think anybody else has either. We got people that are taking sides in issues. How do you take a side in an issue like this, right? The side's got to be the kids. If not, there's something so wrong, man. This is as ugly as it gets. I hope this is the worst story that we cover for this year. I don't believe for a second it's going to be. The Diddy story from yesterday is absolutely a fact. They changed the timetables, right? They changed up the timetable for how everything is going to go forward. And that means that March, we're going to see March is going to be a big month because we're going to have cameras in the courtroom, right? Not for Diddy, but for Keefe D and the case, for the Tupac shooting. But the Enterprise letter that's going to give us a hell of a lot to talk about is going to be coming out February 1st. That's what they're saying anyway. Do I have health issues? Oh my God, yes. Yeah, I have terrible health issues from all of the stuff that I've done. Starting mid-January, Ravina says. Tommy, we have so much stuff that's going to come to light this year. Everything will turn on a dime if the planets aren't lying, starting mid-January. Well, I'll tell you something. I got some predictions that I'd like to make for the new year. We probably should have done a show on it, but we're going to see a tape come out. This is my prediction. Prediction, just an opinion, but it's a prediction. We're going to see a tape come out this year from Sean Carter. Somebody's got something. You do realize it would almost be impossible if what they're selling us is the truth, right? These sick SOBs tape everything. This, right? There was a time when if you were a sicko that wanted to record the kind of things that these two married men were recording from their adopted kids, you needed cameras, you needed hardware, you needed film, right? Modern technology has made the proliferation of this garbage so much easier. The laws have to change. Laws have to change. People don't like mandatory minimums. I am a member of FAM, which is Families Against Mandatory Minimums. I think mandatory minimums almost across the board are evil. I really do. However, I think we need mandatory minimums for CP, not just for producing it, but for possessing it. And I think that there should be a 2-strike process. A lot of these people will get 2 and 3 times that they get caught with this stuff. If you get caught with it once, right, you should never get out. But sure as hell, if they give you a decade and you get out and reoffend in a year, you should get life. Obviously, you can't be fixed. And you're not going to find, you know what? If you're a psychiatrist out there that believes that there's a cure for this, you go ahead and send me an email. I promise you, you're alone. I've talked to so many people since I started the Lifeboat who do this for a living who say, no, you can't fix this. You can't. So maybe we'll get demonetized for this, but who cares? So let me tell you a cure for this, right? Let me tell you a cure for this. If you wake up tomorrow morning and you see a girl on the way to the bus stop to go to school and somehow find yourself aroused, maybe go home and eat a shotgun. For real. Do the world a solid. Just seems like it makes an awful lot of sense, right? It's like those movies where the people get bit by the zombies and they know it's coming. Man, if you start finding yourself attracted to a kid, swallow a shotgun, right? Get yourself off the planet Earth. I have a feeling when you get to the other side, God's not going to give you a lot of crap about that. I promise, right? I promise. Just can't see that being an issue. And I'm sorry to everybody. I have a lot more fun when I can come out in here and rail on some characters that we all know pretty well, right? Oh, by the way, I also got a lot of crap about a lot of people really, really dig Snoop, right? A lot of people really dig Snoop. So you're going to hate the show I'm going to do on him, folks. I promise you're going to hate it. There's a lot of smoke around this dude, man. There's a lot of smoke around this dude. Yes. And you know what? I'm not messed up about it. I think I probably already demonetized myself anyway. So, hi, Tommy from the UK. We have an issue with certain kinds of people grooming gangs that are R-ing teenage girls. Our government is trying to cover this up by saying anyone that speaks out is racist. Well, boy, that's the perfect defense, isn't it? How you cannot defend yourself against that? If somebody calls me racist, what do I say? My best friend's black. Boy, that doesn't sound like it was, right? No, a lot of my friends are black. Everything you say makes you sound more like a white racist dude, right? It's a great argument. It's a perfect way to end debate, right? Call somebody racist, call them sexist, call them a homophobe. Now, if they happen to be, right? But, it's amazing the things I'm going to get hate mail, right? From people on this story because these guys were gay. I'm going to get hate mail. I'm going to get people that say, you're targeting this. You just want to highlight this because it's give a crap. But the truth of the matter is, if it was a man and a woman, both of them wouldn't have been doing this. Couldn't have been possible. And what are the odds that 2 sick SOBs find each other? God help us, what a world. And I am a little bit blown away at the fact that I'm thinking about this. If these guys didn't get bumped off quickly. And honestly, if they don't get snuffed really fast, then they're going to live like Larry Nassar. I got another comment about that the other day. Someone said, you say these guys get worked over or whatever, Nassar's living in there. Got any idea how he's living? Look up how many times that dude's been attacked. It's just, he's lucky as hell they haven't hit a major organ, but he's been stabbed, he's been beat, he's been hit in the head with a lock. He's not having a real good. He's not having a real good time. They're probably going to have to pull Larry Nassar out of the feds, right, and hide him in a state facility somewhere. But the thing with that is, inmates aren't stupid. When a guy comes rolling in, right, and let's say you're doing time in, they pull you out of a federal prison and they drop you in Texas. You're going to have to hit a Texas yard. Guys are going to come up and go, "Where'd you get busted?" Right? What part of the state? You would have to have a pat set of answers that are all going to make sense. And you may not believe this, but anyone that's done time, if Russ was still here, he could tell you. You can smell them. I'm not kidding you. You walk into a place where everybody there wants to kill you. You walk into a place where everybody there, literally, if they find out your secret, they're going to hurt you. And there is a stench of fear, right? There is a smell about that is like nothing else on planet Earth. There's no mistaking it. It's awful, man. Congrats to you and Reese, slowly coming out of December depression, avoided YouTube and all news. It's been horrible, but you and Reese engaged was about. Thank you, Sassy Savage. I appreciate that, and I'm glad to see you back. I could probably make a good argument for. I hope that you were spending a lot of time with other people, right, and that you were connecting. I hope you were not withdrawing. We're always better if we're talking, right? Am I really lecturing somebody that just said they had a bad December? I hope I'm not, but I hope that if anybody's suffering, don't suffer in silence, please. And we love you, Sassy Savage, you know that, but we don't want anybody suffering in silence. I agree with you. No, they should not get any kind of special treatment. They shouldn't, right? They should get dropped onto a yard with everybody else and let them see what happens, right? That's how it should be. No matter how it shakes out, these guys are going to have a really, really bad life. When you get sent to another prison, you're never going to hide. It's impossible. I promise. Guys have nothing but time on their hands. A guy might fly under the radar for a month, and then someday someone's going to say something to him, and they're going to say something so stupid, right? They're going to say something where you just go, huh? They had a guy they were trying to hide. He had paperwork. Everything looked great. And he was at an FCI. It was the last yard I was at. And we were getting ready to go to the chow hall. And he took off his headphones, and we were all putting them on the table, right? And he made a comment about it's so nice being in an FCI because at the USPs, if you left your radio on the table to go to dinner, someone would have stolen it. And the truth is, you got a way better chance of something getting stolen at the lower custody levels than you do at the top custody levels. There aren't cell thieves at USPs because they'll get killed. I mean, literally, the rules are enforced way different on the top level at the bottom level. And when he said it, every guy, we were playing poker, every dude there went and started looking at each other. One of the old men was like, don't say anything. So when we came back, someone said, hey, what USP were you at again? He goes, well, I've been at a bunch of them, but the last one I was at was the special management unit, the SMU at Lewisburg. And the guy at the table was like, oh, Rock was at the SMU. He's like, when were you there? He spit out a year. I don't remember what it was. Not the same time I was there. But I said, what unit were you in? And he goes, 3. Lewisburg is one of those prisons that goes A, B, C, D. The really old ones don't have numbers. They got letters. So when he said he was in unit 3, the dude had never been to that prison, never been to that yard. And nobody said a word. Nobody called him on it. Everyone was like, oh, 3. A side or B side, because prisons in the feds that do numbers usually have an A side and a B side. So it'll be like 3A and B, 4A and B. And the guy was like, B side, right? Just bullshit, BSing everybody there, right? And they just quietly got ready for him the next morning, right? Everybody got ready. And when the doors popped the next day, they rolled up into his cell and said, hey, let's talk about how you're lying. And then they beat the crap out of him, right? That's usually how it works. You can't really blend in. You can't really hide. These guys, right? The good news is that William and Zachary Zulak, the rest of their life will be as miserable, right, as what they did to these boys. I'm not joking. These guys are going to get beat. They're going to get stabbed. They're going to get spit on. They're going to get mocked. If they buy stuff at store, the people are going to steal it. If they go over to make a phone call home to their family, anybody that wants to use that phone is going to go up, hang it up, tell them to beat it, and just start using their phone. Right? They probably will have to eat standing up. I'm not kidding you. Usually they don't let those guys sit down in the chow halls in the feds. I'm not joking. I was only on one yard that allowed them to walk. At the very last yard I was on was Sheridan, Oregon. And they called it Chomo Row. There was like 7 cells in the unit that were all people that had been convicted of those kind of crimes. But they were not allowed to sit down in the chow hall. So when you went in to eat, like my very first day in there, I didn't even know we had people on the yard like that, nothing. I got there right at time to go to hit lunch. And I went in and I was like, what the hell is that? It's like 9 dudes standing up. I'm like, boy, man, they're in a hurry or what? He's like, no, those are kid touches. He's like, they're not allowed to sit. And as much as guys say, man, you don't want to be on the yard, I honestly thought that the federal cheeseburgers never tasted better than when you saw somebody not able to to sit down because of their crimes. Honestly, kind of made the cheeseburger taste better. Now, it's a career ender to walk that yard. This is no joke, right? Like when I got there, the caseworker said to me, you got to know this, right? If you walk this yard, you can't go anywhere else in the bureau ever, right? Because technically, what I'm supposed to do when I get that yard is find one of these guys and crush them. And you see it every day. Guys who come in that they got 10 more years to do, they're not gonna walk that yard, right? Because they're gonna end up some other yard and someone's gonna say, wait, you walked Sheridan? That's a problem for a lot of people, right? So guys will come in and go, where's Chomo Row? And you go, right, that whole row over there. And the guy goes, is there anybody there that's real messed up? Who's got the worst paperwork? Like 106. They just go in there and hit the guy in the head with a lock. This kind of stuff happened a lot there. But I had 5 months left on my sentence, man. Been down for over a decade. I'm not hitting one of these dudes. I'm not going to get 6 more years in prison for that 5 months. I'm like, yeah, don't trip. I will absolutely happily just take a few naps. I don't, and I'll tell you why. 60%, 63% of people that are SA'd never report it. Right? The one thing that these 2 young men have going for them is that the world knows, right? As bad as that is, the world knows. They're going to be in therapy probably every day, right? These guys have a better chance because none of this is going to be hidden, right? There isn't going to be that aspect of this is that thing in the back of their mind that they've never told anybody. Right? They're going to be spending a lot of time talking about this and a lot of time working through this. And I think that because of the age they're at, they're going to drive home the message that they did nothing wrong. The saddest part of this is that in every one of these cases, underage people walk away thinking, I did something. This was my fault, right? I did something to deserve this. I did something to bring this on. It's a horrific thing. But I think that fortunately, the fact that this is out, the fact that they're getting counseling and therapy, that's something that they will bring up. You know what I mean? If you're going into therapy, a therapist can say to someone when they're 17 or 18, this may come as a shock to you, but very often people who have been assaulted this way will end up becoming someone who does that as well. My belief is, and I'm sure that there are people who will argue, but my belief is that when that happens, when the person goes from being someone who was a victim to then becoming somebody that perpetrates the same kind of offenses, I think it always comes back to a lack of therapy, a lack of discussion, a lack of bringing this out, connection, right? Connection. If you have something this traumatic in your past and you keep it silently locked up inside you, I mean, if you don't become a serial killer, it's a miracle. These are not the kind of things you can keep inside you without them doing massive amounts of damage, right? I mean, this was not, and I'm not doing this with trauma. You understand? I don't play that. I promise you I don't. But this isn't even a one-shot deal. These are kids who were ritualistically abused and filmed and passed around and everything else for years. Yeah. What do you think about kids who hurt kids? Here in the Jamie Bulger case, 2-year-old killed by 12-year-olds. They got new identities, and one of them is back for having CP. Um, it's the hardest thing in the world, isn't it? And there's a bunch of these cases, sadly. You know, you don't want to send somebody to prison for the rest of their life for something they do when they're 12. But I think that we have to get better, right? There has to be a mechanism where we continue to look at these kids um, objectively, right? You see these cases where they completely snow a psychiatrist or a psychologist and they're back on the street and they're reoffending and doing things. How about 5 of them, right? How about having a 5 shrink panel, right? And you would have to have a 3-2 vote to then send these people to a parole board where they would have to have a 3 out of 5 vote, right? Some common sense kind of stuff. Yeah. There's got to be, and maybe there aren't any answers, but damn it, let's try to figure some of them out. Let's fall on our face trying. But I promise you this. I knew if I didn't use a weapon, robbing a bank wasn't going to get me more than 5 years. That's why I didn't bring a weapon. I didn't want to get 25 years. Criminals are, whether you believe it or not, they will do different things. Smack is sold by the piece. And the reason originally was because if you got caught with an ounce of this stuff, it was a federal offense and you got a whole bunch of different trouble. If it was under that ounce, that threshold was different. So nobody sold ounces, right? You'd get a piece, and a piece was 3 grams shy of an ounce. People, whether you realize it or not, or are willing to believe it or not, because they always go, none of that stuff is a deterrent to criminals. Bullshit. I promise you it is, right? There are criminals who will be intimidated, right, by long sentences. Now, if they've got bad wiring, if they're the person looking at this stuff, but sometimes people who get involved in the distribution of this treat this as a business. They're doing this because there's more money in this than there is in chemicals. Well, and less of a sentence, right? If you know you could be moving this product versus a drug product, making more money on this product, and if you got caught, you're looking at 9 to 10 years instead of 50. Well, we need to make the penalties for this terrifying. Sorry, 1 second. I remember horrible things that happened to boys as a kid. Remember grown men saying, "Boys will be boys." I couldn't understand old school mindsets. Born in the 70s, if that matters. I too was born in the 70s. And I had problems with an adult female on more than one occasion as a kid, and that's exactly what happens. You either get boys will be boys, or it was like a congratulations thing, like whatever happened to you was you scored, right? Good for you, that kind of shit. Anyway, Tommy, what about those who don't get therapy because stage moms are involved? I think people that don't get therapy, right, for anything are in deep trouble, right? Trauma is a reality in the lives of every single person out there. There's nobody on planet Earth that will argue this with me. Nobody, right? We all have trauma. Everybody believe that? We all have trauma. Now, it might be minor. It might be horrific, like what these boys are going through. But everybody has trauma. What do you do about trauma? Because I'm here to tell you, it isn't going to be a pill, right? And if it's just that, well, you learn to get over it. Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. I promise you it doesn't. You can talk yourself into that shit, but you've got this thing inside your dome and it's affecting everything that you do. You just don't realize it. So what do? Well, you face it, right? Like the burnt like Lakota. You run through the fire, right? You don't run away from it. You can't. Johnny Scoville always says, if you run from your problems, when you finally stop running and your problems are there, you're tired, you're exhausted, right? From running. You're way better off to just turn around and face the problems and fight them right there, right now. Therapy is how we heal. I promise people. I'm certainly not enlightened. I'm not Buddha or a guru or any such crap. However, I spend a lot of time working on trying to figure out why I am the person that I am. I spend a great deal of time trying to work on that and be better. And if you've got trauma, I promise you, the cure for trauma looks like one of these things, right? Get one of these, right, and start writing in that puppy every single day, right? Right at the morning, right at night, and just get in and start filling journals. And it will absolutely shock you how it will change your life. Cup of coffee, you're late. On the bright side, they're not going to take this down. You'll be able to watch it. Sorry. Do. Lucinda, I would happily put them in the wood chipper with you. I would. Yeah. All right, people. I am of the firm belief we have hope, right? We have hope for 2025 that this is the time when everybody stands up and says, not anymore. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to look away, and this isn't going to happen. I'm going to reach out to politicians and say, how is it? How is it that a guy can get caught with a white powder that he puts up his nose for recreation on weekends and get more time than someone that films themselves having intercourse with a 6-year-old? How does that make any sense? Tell you what, keep laws that way, and I will not only not vote for you, but I will die to ensure that other people don't vote for you. I will get real damn involved in making sure that I campaign against you. I don't care who you're going to be running against. You need to start doing something about this because this is the biggest threat we have on earth. I promise you. Any culture that allows this to happen is devolving at a rate, the planet's in danger. I'm not joking, right? When we can justify as the most civilized country on earth, 350,000 lost kids in a year, we're this close to the end, in my humble opinion. That's it. Not on my watch, right? 2025 hashtag, not on my watch. Please, right? We're not going to look away, folks. We're not going to look away. All right. I'm going to go and put on some different clothing. I'm going to go outside and brave the cold and the snow and probably go shopping with my fiance, Relatable Reese. If you don't know who my fiance is, shame on you. Get over to Relatable Reese and smack that subscribe button. You will see me over there as well. People, thank you for all of you that came here. This is right. This is a little bit smaller than our normal audience, but the fact that 385 of you can stomach this, I love that. I do. And to the replay crew, thank you for always coming and supporting the boat. Without the replay crew, there is no lifeboat, right? You keep the boat afloat. Really do love this crew. All right. Between now and the next time I see you, reach out and try to save somebody. God bless.